Today I'll show you how I made these rocky boulders for the Modular Warcry terrain board. To start off, we're going to be using some of this insulation foam. I had this laying around from a previous terrain board and thought I'd use some of the extra pieces. Now I've marked off a rough shape, and we're just going to do a little bit of rough cuts. I'm basically just kind of stabbing the utility knife in so that when it breaks off, it kind of leaves a little bit of a texture behind. Now we can clean up a couple of these little fuzzy, frizzy areas with just kind of pulling it off with the fingers. It leaves a nice rough texture and it kind of starts the process of making it look like a rock face. So we're just going to finish up the rough cuts around the edges, and then just using the edge of the utility knife or even a ruler here, safety first, we're going to kind of tear chunks away in little bits at a time to kind of create a beveled edge leading into the side of the piece. And by just kind of dragging the ruler along the edge, it'll also tear off a few pieces here or there to kind of help complete and continue the rocky texture. Alright, so to texture the flat surface area, I'm taking a chunk of kind of a cosmetic glass that I got at the Dollar Tree and just kind of stabbing it into the surface over and over again, kind of rotating it as I go to kind of create a irregular area. This will kind of break up the surface and create a impacted, indented texture. Alright, so now we can move on and make a few more of these. Now this can get a bit repetitive, so I'll just do the rest off camera. Okay, so we've got a few of these cut out and rockified. I don't even know if that's a word, but you know what? I'm going to use it. Now the next step to prevent any damage from wear and tear and use is going to be to seal the foam pieces, and we're going to do that by mixing some Mod Podge and some black paint, and then doing a full all-over coat on all of the areas that are going to be visible once they're cemented onto the board. Now once these dry, they're going to have a very rigid surface texture, and it's going to prevent a lot of damage from happening. So now I'm going to take a couple of the smaller pieces and just kind of hot glue them onto a couple of the larger ones to create a little bit more of a raised cover area and help with a little bit of line of sight blocking. And any areas that have glue just kind of spill out from the connection points, I'm just going to use a stick to kind of pull it away and prevent it from becoming an extra feature on the piece. Alright, now that they're all base coated and we've got our raised areas, I'm just kind of doing a rough plot of where I kind of want all these pieces to go, keeping in mind that some of the models that are going to be playing are a little large, so I'm leaving enough space for models to move around, but also provide cover and line of sight blocking. Alright, so now we're going to test a little bit of playability, just kind of make sure that there is room for models to move around, that they have, all the appropriate features that I'm looking for putting this piece together. And really all I'm looking for is, can the models see over, but does it restrict line of sight? Are there areas that the models can stand on versus can't stand on? How can this be a fun, interactive piece to use on the battlefield? Alright, so now we're going to go back to my favorite blending compound, I guess you could say, some tile grout, and this is going to be placed around the base of the boulders to kind of blend them all together. Once everything's all blended together, we're going to use a little bit of Mod Podge to apply the ground texture, and that is just basically a few handfuls of mixed grit play sand. And I'm going to put a little bit of it on the top of the rocks here because while I did texture the top of the rocks, I didn't really think it was going to fit and didn't really like how it came out once it was painted. So I might try it again at a later date, but for this time around we're going to just kind of cover it up with some sand. It'll still create some nice uneven layering for the sand to grip hold of, but we won't see the indentations. Alright, since we've all seen like 3 videos of me painting dirt, I'm just going to skip over that. If you want to see the process, I'd recommend checking any of the other videos that have been made in this series. So we're going to start by coating all of the rocks with a full base layer of gray. I initially did them with black and the Mod Podge so that if there's any areas that are missed, it'll just look like an extra shadow or a shadow effect. So it'll help to prevent or cover up any mistakes as we go on. And yeah, it's pretty quick to apply the full layer paint on these. Once they're dried, we're doing a light to medium dry brush with some neutral gray, and that just kind of brings all the edges to life with a quick highlight for some lighting effect. Now if you wanted, you could darken these up with a wash. I'm not going to do that in this video, but we might experiment with that at a later time. Alright, so that's all done. I'm going to use a little bit of wood glue, the little bit that I have left, to kind of create some patchy areas for the grass flocking. Now I don't want this to cover the entirety of the ground texture, so we're just kind of stippling the glue around, just creating some uneven patches and little areas with the dirt still showing through. Alright, now I'm just going to use the sifter and apply a heavy coating of the flock to the entire piece. Now, I'm going to pick this up and show you a little bit closer to the camera. You can see where the flocking kind of pooled in a few of the recesses of the stone. Now, I kind of want to capture that, but I don't want it to look like there's just, moss or grass growing all over everything. So once we knock off the extra flock, we're just going to use some more glue and pick out a few areas here or there to create a little bit of extra depth and definition to the piece without it being too heavy-handed. Now I'm doing a second fairly heavy coat of the flock, and once that's dried, we do the knockoff of all the extra, and we are finished. Alright, I think these came out really well. They were pretty quick and easy to put together. The longest part was the drying time for the paint. And here we are dressed up with a few extra models just for some presentation. So please everyone hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment in the comments section, and we will see everyone next episode.